G'day guys, welcome back to Bushka on Blitz. Lovely to have you with me here today. Thanks for coming by. Having a look today at the T54 by popular demand, the Tier 9 Russian medium. Little nugget of toughness, doused in vodka and painted a drab communist green. Don't forget while you're here to subscribe to the channel if you're having a look. But without further ado, we're going to have a look at the mobility of this tank compared to its compatriots at Tier 9 mediums. The Patton, the Centurion, and on the tech tree we'll see the E50. The armour, the profile of the tank, the gun and the gun depression, and a little bit about the camo, a few of the quirks as well. So, firstly, mobility-wise, it's the nimblest of the Tier 9 mediums. It's got 48 degrees of traverse, I believe, and about 44 degrees of turret traverse. The M48A, the M46 Patton comes in a second, but it's a pretty distant second. 38 degrees of traverse per second and 40 degrees of turret traverse. Now the very oddly named median tank, which is the Centurion 7 Mark 1, you can see here 32 degrees of traverse speed a second and 36 of turret traverse. To put that into context, the T54 has 16 degrees more traverse per second in terms of turning speed. That's a 50% faster turn. There is no wonder that this thing is the absolute king of brawling in terms of Tier 9 and can actually punch above its weight up at Tier 10 as well, combined with all the other features that it does pack. Now obviously I'm speaking of it in glowing terms, so it should come as no surprise that I'll give you the conclusion of this review right now, which is buy the bloody thing or grind it. What are you waiting for? So mobility wise, it hands down the E50 has very similar stats, soft stats to the Centurion. It's a faster tank than the rest of the E50, but it takes a hell of a lot longer to get up there. One of the reasons being that this tank, I mean, the stats on this thing are unbelievable. It's got 700 horsepower on a 35-ton tank. That's a 20-to-1 horsepower to weight ratio. There's no other tank in its class that has those kind of stats. Just to give you an idea, the T62A, 37 tons and 580 horsepower. So it doesn't have near the ratio of power to weight that the T54 has. Nothing really does. The Centurion's got a 900 odd horsepower engine, but it's a very, very hefty tank. Nothing gets up there as quickly as the T54 in its tier. It doesn't have the highest top speed. That honour goes to the E50. However, unlike the E50, it is actually applicable, so to speak. The T54 will get up to 56 kilometres an hour on flat ground quite quickly and hold that speed through turns and such a lot better than any other compatriots. So it's the most mobile, and what that does for the tank as a medium is it allows it to get where it needs to go quicker than the rest, and then when it's there, it has the armour to actually participate in the battle. It does not look like the strongest tank. It's only got 120 mils of armour on that frontal plate there. However, it's angled at 60 degrees. Now 70 degrees in this game is an auto bounce zone. It doesn't take much wiggling and jiggling on this tank at all to turn that frontal plate into an auto bounce. The only time you will get penned on an auto bounce zone is if you get overmatched by double the penetration numbers. So a Tier 10 firing heat or something with a big cannon is still going to fill you up, but when you're competing against your peers, you're more or less, you're not impenetrable at all, but you've got a very good chance of bouncing shots, which you'll see in the gameplay videos. The scent is, it's reasonably armoured at the front and such, but it's got such a huge profile and such a big lower glacis that it's very, very easy to pen. Likewise, the Patton, it's basically tissue paper. You can pen the front of the Patton anywhere. You can pen most of the turret. The E50 is the oddity there. It is a very good tank in terms of angling. Like most German tanks, you can angle that E50 and you'll get a hell of a lot of bounces. You can side scrape. You can still side scrape in the T54. Don't get me wrong, and it's nimble enough and manoeuvrable enough to, as you come around corners, to wiggle that front and make the angle absolutely abominable for someone who's trying to hit you. Just as important as armour, though, for a medium tank is its profile. Now, this is where the T54 just leaves the others for dead. The Centurion, you can see, if you're trying to hide behind a rock, you have to find a quite big bloody rock to get the Centurion to fit behind it. Or, for that matter, the Patton. However, you don't need much of a bump in the ground to hide this thing. It will abuse terrain wonderfully well. It's more or less built for going through the seams at pace, turning around behind people, tracking people with that brilliant gun it has. I can't say enough about how good this tank is. So it's got the best profile, it's got the best mobility. In my opinion, it's got the best armour. It's a semi-reliable frontal glacis. It's got a turret that can bounce a hell of a lot. You've got 200mm of armour around the front of that turret, as well as a small gun mantlet that is spaced. You'll bounce a lot off the turret, so you can hold down. It just doesn't have the gun depression to take full advantage of that. The E50's profile is terrible, as you can imagine. The profile leads us somewhat into the camo stats. No surprise to anyone that the T54 has the best camo stats of any tank in its class. Its on-the-move camo is 11.7. To put that in perspective, the on-the-move camo of 11.7 is better than the standing still camo of the Centurion 7 Mark I. Its camo when stock still is 15.59, which easily leads the bunch. The Patton comes in second at 13.34, and the poor old E50 a far distant fourth at 9.06. All these stats mean is that basically the T54 can abuse camouflage to get easy shots up. It can get behind bushes and such, and have a huge advantage in terms of spotting. It's odd that they produced a tank that is more or less, it's got the best engine in its class, it's got the most nimble and fleet of foot in its class, it's got the best camo in its class. For my money, it's got the most reliable armour in its class. But that's not all. No, indeed not. If you are still not convinced, let's have a look at the gun. Now, this is the gun you'll want to get with the T54, the 100mm D10 T2C. It is, I think, about another extra 50k. It's been a while since I ground it in. The stock standard 100mm D54 will suffice, but it struggles in terms of dispersion. 0.35 is better than the T62A's dispersion of 0.36. It doesn't fire APCR, it fires AP, which isn't as good for sniping, but still at 0.35 you'll get away with it clearly. 8.27 rounds per minute means you can perma-track a lot of heavies if they don't carry a toolbox or don't have the right perks. And here's the killer. It has 330mm of average penetration with heat. Now this is why this tank cops such a hiding from people who don't like guys that drive around throwing gold. If you load this tank up with gold, the more heat you have in it, the better it hits. It will penetrate frontally with heat an E100. It will penetrate a mouse frontally. There's not much in the game it won't penetrate frontally if you can hit weak spots. Just to give you an idea on how outrageous this is, let's have a look at the tier 10 mediums. The FV402 is British, and as such it has HESH as a premium ammo, so it doesn't get the extra penetration. Its standard penetration is 268. You've really got to hit weak spots in the FV402. Its high explosive is only 210. If we have a look at the T62A, it's got exactly the same penetration with heat as the Tier 9 T54. And the Patton, again, 330 is its penetration with heat. It's an odd one. It really is. I don't understand why it's in the game like that, but it is. So if you're going to take advantage of it, this is the tank to do it in. The E50, with its top gun, does have something very similar. You'll see its APCR goes up to 270. Now, that's a sniper par excellence. It's 0.30 dispersion. It doesn't have nearly the penetration of the T54. It's 60 points of pen lower than a T54 using its premium ammo. So with the T54, you can literally go out there and take on tier 10s knowing that you have the same penetration as most tier 10 tanks. It's insanity itself. So you couple all those things with together, you've got league-leading mobility. You've got super tough armour, very trollish armour. You've got an ultra-low profile and a small tank frame and chassis itself. You've got a gun that's really only held back by the brain of the guy driving it and the fact that it doesn't have great gun depression, but for the most part, no Russian tanks really thrive on the gun depression. And you've got the best camo in its tier in terms of medium tanks. You add those things up and you have what I would consider the most overpowered tank in its tier. Maybe the E75 is up there, but you've got to be a very good driver on an E75 to take advantage of, well, not very good, but you've got to angle the tank correctly. A few quirks. I think I've never seen a medium side scrape so well. I think that's less about the side scraping and more about the moving in and forward very quick, in and out very quick. You can take hits on the tracks. You can really draw inexperienced players into shooting your tracks, and the tracks repair very quickly if you've got perks. The turret, there are weak spots on top, but they're so hard to hit and they're such low profile that you can hull down with this thing. It's really too strong for a medium tank in my opinion. But anyway, I digress. The T54, an incredible tank. Let's have a look at some gameplay. We're going to have a look at a few games, a couple of examples of particular things that I find interesting with this tank. Two of the games, the first and the last, were consecutive games, and they're absolute nail-biters. So sit back and relax, and we'll have a further chat about this wonderful little vehicle, the T54 Tier 9 Russian medium. Now, this was a really fun game. Came down in the last seconds. We're on Rockfield here, one of my favourite maps, although not from this side generally in a medium. I like to get up to the bunker where you'll see a tiger approach in a sec. Now I'm spotted there, but reset camo, just turn around, go back to the same spot, go back to the well, and we get 3 spots there. I find spotting to be a really important and underrated use of a medium, and if you're not doing it, you probably should. This tiger, now he's got the right idea if he's in a tier 7 or a tier 8 game, but he can't pen much from there in a tier 9 game. And as such, he really does pay the penalty for being aggressive and trying to help his team out, because they just leave him out there on a limb to cop a flogging. Now this is a good example, this game, of the ability of the T54 to hull down or at least hide behind terrain. We've fast forwarded through where you'll see in a sec we go through to about 4 minutes, and we're just been around here the whole time, staying low, getting out, getting spots, and there's nothing they can really do about it. So that Jag Tiger would dearly love to have a crack at us here, but you'll see we can put one into him. He's got to hit the mound. It's a very, very low profile and a hard shot, and we can put shells even when they get us. You know, it's very, very bouncy turret. I think that was a T25 AT maybe, or the T34 there. We'll fast forward now. We've just moved that tiger out of the way, and we're going to start pushing the pace because we're down to 3 minutes and we're a tank down, and there's an opportunity there. So donk a shot because I'm hopeless and get in behind the Jag, and this is really what it's all about. If I had donked that shot, this poor bugger would still be alive, but anyway. We're going to take a couple, but prioritising is something you can do with the T54. You can pick your targets a lot easier. You don't have to take what's on offer. You can move and relocate. I'd love to know how this next shot doesn't go in on this T25 AT, but anyway, long short, it didn't. You can see here I'm giving him an angle on my turret, and the front glacis, and it's not an angle he wants to take. It's a very hard angle, in fact. So we're now down 1 tank, but my partner in crime, the TD, he's not my platoon, he's just another random bloke like myself. He's a one-hit wonder now. We're trying to get some spots with his camo and the speed and the mobility. I love this tank for this reason. You get to the end of a game and everything's still on the table. You can be a one-shot and you can move around comfortably. You've got better camo than the enemy. You've got good enough armour that you're not too worried about taking one on the front of the tin. And their T95 sitting down there near the cap circle. There's a T34 around. And we're going to have a look at just how powerful the heat on this tank is. No other medium in our tier would have been able to make this shot, I don't believe, that we're about to make on the T34. The object, against my strong wishes, is going to go down there and have a crack at the Ferdinand, but bugger me, he knows what he's doing. He takes the third out. I'm looking for this T34 because he's really the missing link. I don't know where he is. I don't want to go near the T95, get one from the T95 and then a 400 odd hit from a T-34 and I'm in trouble. So there he is up there. Now I've got some heat rounds left. I go to heat and there's a tiny little cheek there of a T-34 available from Tiger Lucy. And this tank puts it straight through there. Now that's a very, very, very strong turret on that T-34. But it turns him into a one shot and makes him play very much a passive role from here on in. We've got 50 seconds left. We've got to take out the full hit points of a T-95 and another tank to get the win. They're never going to cap it. I'm not that worried about that, but we've got the pace. We're going to go straight past the T-95. Look at the little get up and go on this tank. We'll cop one from behind from Tiger Lucy, but we will turn in time. We're going to use, because of the profile of this tank, you can fit down behind a T-95 and literally move him around as cover. You can hull down behind a low tank like a T-95 or something, and it's a good thing when you're actually, and this is something important, you should always shoot a T-95 just there. You don't want to shoot him low in the sides. There's double tracks and a lot of spaced armour there. If you shoot low in the sides, you want to hit him in the spine or in the rear as the case may be. But as I was saying, if you've got two tanks against you, you can hide behind one if it's a nice low profile tank like the T-95 and hit again. So there we go, the win with 2 seconds left. Real heart stopper. And we got the spotters, as is our want. We do like getting spotters, and lovely. About 3.5k damage. Very solid. And we're going to have a look at how this tank brawls with Aegon, a mate of mine, platooning on the top of Middleburg. We're getting touched up here by a T110E5 and a Pershing. Geez, that was a great shot, Bushka. What we're trying to do is take out the tracks on this guy, give himself a little bit of mobility. He's going to track him and then leave him and go for the Pershing. I put another one in the track. I'm going to bounce the Pershing. Gee, it's a tough little tank, but I take one from a tier 10 heavy, which is predictable. Put another one into his track. The rate of fire is brilliant. Now look how quickly it gets around the turret of this E5, which is a quick, in terms of turret traverse, it's actually quite a solid tier 10 heavy. Now this is the big one. We're going to turn inside the traverse of his gun. At the moment he's zoomed in on me, trying to get that last shot to make it hit. But if you turn inside the traverse, instead of just being predictable and trying to circle the whole way, you end up right next to them, and then you can reverse back with them, and they'll skip you again next time they go past as well. Very hard to stay in and get a good shot. Hell of a brawler. Now, we've 8.27 rounds per minute. With the gun rammer, we're just over 9, and with vents, we're a touch above that again. So we're going to pound the drive wheel of this IS-3. His big kit's on a cooldown. He's desperately trying to move, but this tank can just keep hitting a drive wheel, perma-tracking a heavy to its heart's content. Now, his kit comes back up here, but all too little too late. He's going to move away, and we'll put another one into him. Now, that DPM is just outrageous. The guy never had a chance. Now here we are on Black Gold. Tier 10 game. Interestingly enough, I do play it slightly differently with a Tier 10 game. I like to get on the flanks and spot from a team as usual, but I do try and find a big tank, like in this case an OBJ-268, or as me and a few of the boys call it, an object. And I'm going to try and utilise his big gun and my powers of harassment to do okay. Now, this Patton and I trade shots off. No great surprises there. I deserved that. Wasn't moving back and was in a bad spot. But the next one, the Patton wants to move up. He knows he's in a tough spot. I'm going to get another one into him. My profile is too high. He's not going to be able to do anything. He's going to bounce everything there. But look at the profile on this Patton. It's so important in a medium. I just nail his machine gun turret. And he's finished. Now, the reason I stick with a big gun is not just because it's the easiest way to win a match, although it probably is. This tank can be very helpful in its own right. It's the fact that if I track a tank like that E100 and that object puts a 650 average damage shot into him, half that damage will get accredited to me, and it's against a tier 10, so I get a hell of a lot of XP out of that, and it's why at the end of this match, even though I only do 2,000 damage, I get nearly 1,200 XP out of the experience without premium. Now, we put 2 shots into a T54 here. One of them's amateur hour, but this one was fine, just did absolutely nothing. That turret, as I mentioned, with plain old AP, just doesn't really do the business. And this is amateur hour. So I'm still looking at my mate on the left, the object. I want to get rid of this C100. He's the biggest threat. They've got a couple of tier 10s. I've already taken one of those out, and this is the second one. If we clear him off, always thinking a bit more about your team in a medium helps. Look how tough this little tank is. I'm not going to waste heat on him. Just track him. I don't have any heat to waste anymore, but just track him. Let the object put one into him there, as you can see. I'm going to go around the corner. The pattern's going to poke his nose out. And when he does, I'll fill him up as well. Side scrape and reverse angle around this corner. And the pattern's going to bounce straight off the front glacis. I'm going to prompt him. And look at the speed on this thing. Moving, 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 moving at pace. Leave the E75 alone. We're only worried about these two. Pattern's gone. E100 is in a world of trouble. Suddenly they're gone from being a tank up to a tank down, and it's going to get a lot worse a lot quicker. Because we've been spotting and chucking, you'll see here when we go for the stats at the end of the game. I'll just zoom on through this one. Yeah, we're going to get 4 awards, and we're also going to get 1,764 experience of the premium, but 1176 experience just from helping the team out. 3 spots and just over 2k damage in assistance. So we got the Confederates too. Now our last map is Temple, one of my favourites, and one of my favourite spots. Unfortunately, I have a little malfunction here with assistive touch. You'll note, spot the tiger, but it's not shooting. I've got the IS-8, but again, it's not shooting, and the reason for that is, as you'll soon see, assistive touch is over the fire button. So I take one for my troubles for that, which is completely deserved, and move on and regroup. Now they've pushed up on the flank. This map really illustrates how well this tank can use cover. The temple steps are excellent for it. You can see the glacis upper and lower is shielded, the turret's up, and we're quick enough to get in and out. We can actually reset camo behind there quite easily if we need to. And the gun, look at that rate of fire, absolutely sterling on all fronts. If you're not getting up here, you should be if you're in a T54 or a similar low profile medium. Now they're moving up behind us, they're on our flank, so like a good medium driver, I'm going to be super aggressive and have a crack at all of them. In we go, we're going to take out this pattern first, a couple of on the move shots, which it is also superlative at. Look at that rate of fire again. And then we're going to turn around and have a crack at the IS-6 and the T54 that were moving behind us. Now there's bumps and grinds in all this terrain, and that's what the T54 works best in. You can see us, we don't have to worry about the gun depression here, we're elevating. We're just going to put shots into this IS-6's side. He's going to move out, try and get out of the way. And we're going to use a soft cover. Now take note of the angle of my front glacis here. It will bounce him. He can't really get a shot on me. I'm just bouncing and moving it up to soft cover. Again, I've got my tracks more or less hidden behind the temple and more bouncing. Bouncy, bouncy. I'm putting a few into him, but we're now down 5 tanks to 2, and things are looking grim indeed. There's another bounce. Super strong little tank. I'm derping away here. There's a terrible little section of play. Look at me put one in the fence post. Genius effort. Take one for our troubles, and much deserved. We changed to heat because we just have to get rid of this guy, but we don't quite get the roll we want. And we move onwards and upwards because we're now down 1 tank to 4. Look at the speed on it. It just gets up and goes so quickly. Now we miss a shot here, but we're spotted. Everyone knows where we are. I turn to this T54. He gets me in the side of the track again, and I miss the return shot. I've seen all of them on one shot, so I'm now feeling like, hey, I might actually do this. We're going to go up and have a crack at the T54. Again, just getting the angle right when you go up there doesn't give them the opportunity to shoot. If he's got no heat left like I do, you'll see he did it wrong and we got it right. Now we're going to go to HE because it's a 100mm gun, so it does have a big enough caliber that we will splash this guy to death, and that's just a guaranteed kill if we can hit him anywhere on his yellow part of his chassis, which we do. All we're going to do now is find a Russian Derper, which is a big worry because those massive howitzers those things carry around can do all kinds of trouble. And we did see him at the start of the game when we had our assistive touch issue. We spotted him coming out of respawn. He fired a couple of shots there. I'm waiting to see if he pops. Nope, so we'll just go out and take out this tiger, bounce another one from him, and we finish the game up winning it by jumping in the cap circle while the team opposition forces go mad at the 152 for his camping ways. He doesn't move. More for him. So we had those two games in succession actually. The first one which we won in 2 seconds, and the last one which we won on a cap after standing alone, getting a collar the knobs for that one. So what a hell of a tank. I've had better games and bigger games in it, but I feel these three in particular illustrated some of the strengths of it. It's been a pleasure having you here on Bushka on Blitz, and look forward to seeing you soon. Subscribe to the channel, and good luck out there.